before we get into Liverpool, Rory, I just want to say that I made a pre-season prediction that I'm pretty proud of. I put a bet on Newcastle to finish in the top four.
Did you
And
really?
that one came in, yeah. Cool £18
Very
of
nice.
about 50p. But yeah, very
Very
pleased with that one.
nice.
But your best call, and there are obviously some questionable ones, but your best one, your best one was Liverpool. You did call that they would have a huge drop off, and let's remember as well, this was a side that was going for the quadruple. I mean, we're talking about Man City with the treble. This was a side that was going for the quadruple at the end of last season. But you said they drop off. Why did you say
And
that?
that's why, really. I think the amount of effort that you would have to expend in order to get to that sort of situation where you're 2 games away from an unprecedented quadruple, I think it was gonna take a lot out of the team. And ultimately, Liverpool's success was because of the brilliance of their manager, FSG to a degree, and the individual players. It it's unsustainable. You can't constantly be that good. You can't constantly make, at times, average signings into the best player in the world in their position. You can't constantly turn a youth product like Alexander-Arnold into the best right back in the world. You can't make a signing from, okay, maybe Van Dijk, they could have predicted that. Maybe the keeper, they could have predicted it. They kind of predicted that Andy Robertson was gonna become the best in his position in the world for a time. They kind of predicted that Sadio Mane was gonna become the best in his position at the time. It's due to the brilliance of FSG and the brilliance of Jurgen Klopp. But do believe that unless you can back it with huge amounts of money, like Manchester City at the top feels sustainable to me. Who do you think will win the league next year? Probably Man City, right? And if I would say to you, who do you think wins the league in 2 years? You'd probably go Man City because it is sustainable because it's financially backed. The reason that it's happening is finance. Whereas if the reason that it's happening is a scouting network and managerial excellence, can't constantly do that. You can't constantly reinvent things. You can't constantly come up with new ideas. So that's why I predicted that ultimately it would end because it felt like it have to end at some point.
Do you almost think because they obviously had that season where they came fourth as well, they had that bit of
Mm.
a drop off. Did you kind of see that coming again? And also on that, do you think Liverpool fans almost have to expect a season like that every now and then? Because as you say, they don't have that, I mean, the ridiculous financial
Mm.
backing of clubs like Man City.
Yes, I suppose I do. I think that it's going to be very difficult for them to constantly reinvent themselves and challenge at the very top. I think what's going to happen is in the Premier League is Manchester City will always compete for the league. And then what I think you'll have is you'll have a team find the right recipe and create a title race. And sometimes maybe even win that title race. But it won't be the same team all the time. So Manchester City will compete and they'll have to deal with the challenge from Liverpool, from Chelsea in the first season. So Guardiola had to deal with the challenge from Chelsea in what would that be, 17?
Yeah,
Then a couple of years later he had to deal with the challenge from Klopp
yeah.
and see them off. So he saw Chelsea off, then he saw Liverpool off, then he's seen Arsenal off. I imagine that next season it could be maybe Manchester United if they make the right signings. It could potentially be Newcastle if they make the right signings. It could be any number of teams, but it will be one. One team will find the recipe, get it right, and have a season, maybe even two. In Klopp's case, maybe even three.
Could that team be Liverpool next season then? Will they bounce back? Did you see enough from them this season that to tell you that next season will be much, much better?
I think they'll have a much better season. I think they'll qualify for the Champions League. I think they may flirt with a title race, but no, I don't think they will be able to launch a sustained bid for the
You don't
league.
think they will? So
No, not
if they
really.
were to, it looks like McAllister's on his way to the club. Where else do they need to strengthen for you?
I think that they need goals. They need guaranteed goals. Like you know the rhythm that Klopp managed to create between Firmino, Salah, and Mane. Rediscovering that, and the other thing is, I think that they're porous at the back, aren't they? They're not a stingy back line anymore. Like Virgil van Dijk doesn't look like the player that he did a couple of seasons ago. There's almost a redefinition occurring of Trent Alexander-Arnold, like in terms of what position he plays. Um, so no, I don't think they're gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be strong enough. I think is it, do you think Arsenal can be strong enough again? Do you think Arsenal can go
Well, I
again?
was about to ask you about that because we heard about them in that clip too. What does their next season look like? I can't get it straight in my head. I don't know about you. For me, I don't think they're going to go on another title challenge. I just don't think that squad is strong enough.
The
But
squad's not strong enough, and
again,
also
we're talking at the start of the summer. We'll see which signings they make. I think if they bring in someone like Declan Rice, that could seriously help another title bid. But where do you see Arsenal
I don't think
next season.
you can never underestimate the arduous nature of the Champions League. Like, Champions League football takes it out of you. You know when you have a Champions League game midweek, like, somebody who cares about data, I'm sure, will be able to tell us this, but I would place a bet that your domestic form and your league form will generally suffer if you've played a game midweek, particularly Champions League away game, but even a home game. So Arsenal are now going to have to navigate that very rocky terrain because, unlike the tournament that they did okay in last season, there are no give me fixtures. Arsenal are going to have a really difficult fixture every Wednesday through November and December. That will have a negative impact on their domestic form. So competing on multiple fronts, fighting a war on many different fronts, which is what Mikel Arteta is going to have to do. Maybe he can do it. Maybe his squad can do it. But I think that they're going to suffer. And I think, again, I imagine that they'll qualify for the top four. And I also think we should probably stop calling it. It's now a top five, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the point of the top four is Champions League qualification. So I certainly think Arsenal will finish in the top five and secure European Cup qualification again. But launching a bid for the league, competing with City, going on multiple fronts, I think it's beyond them. I can't really see anyone competing with City.